Okay, ladies and gentlemen, just come back from my usual Sunday run, and it was a slightly different run than most other Sundays, and this is the reason why I'm doing this video, because it has reminded me that I've not even given you guys an update in terms of how I'm getting on with this marathon. And this past week a lot has happened, and so I just want to keep you guys in the loop really, and kind of showcase the reality of marathon training and some of the highs and equally some of the lows, and in addition, the plan going forward. So for those who don't know, I'm doing the New York Marathon on the 5th of November. It's my first ever competitive marathon, and my goal is to do it in 2 hours 50. Now, I'm still very confident that I can do that. The training has very much been focused around that. So the pace set is therefore 6 minutes, 26 seconds or 4 minutes per kilometer. That's what I need to run consistently for 26 miles. And if I do that, I will get my goal. That goal has not changed. But rewinding back to when this all started, it was around the 5th of June. I remember vividly going out on the Friday of that week and thinking to myself, right, David, this is it. You've told the world, you've committed, you have got to follow through with this. And in my defense, not that you're questioning any of that, I've given it my all, I've been consistent. I'll give you a roadmap of the past 12 weeks here based on my Strava. And as you can see, my average mileage has been between 30 to 35 miles, except a couple of weeks, including this week, which I'll touch on at the end. So yeah, my average mileage has increased compared to before marathon prep by around 15 miles. And I would say if you are going into a marathon prep, the first and probably the biggest thing that you have to respect and consider is you need to run more. If you want to be competitive with yourself, you need to run more. At the end of the day, you're running for 26 miles. So if you're not getting close to that mileage, particularly on certain long runs, then you can't really expect, or you say you can't expect, you just got to manage your expectations, because they say often that the hard work begins at 20 miles. The physical side of things you can prep for around 20 miles, but it's that last 6 miles that is mental. So I want to prepare myself as much as I can for that 20 miles, knowing that if I get there, the rest I can do. So yeah, I want to make that very clear. So the mileage has increased. My highest week was 40 miles. Within that week, my longest run during this prep so far has been 18 miles. I've mentioned this in my previous video, but my split is still the same. I'll do 4 runs a week and 3 weight training sessions, push, pull, and legs. And then in terms of my runs, I'll do 2 long runs and then a slow short run and then a speed run, which is typically around 5 to 6 miles, going close to race pace. That hasn't changed. And to be honest, it's been going really well. The 2 exceptions to that were when I was in Crete and I did 10K every day, partly because it was so challenging to run in 35-degree weather, but also as well, it was a new challenge for me running every day. And I would actually say the most return on investment I experienced was probably during that week when I was running under really stressful conditions. I felt a real increase in my endurance that week. So that was only a positive. And then I went to Portugal in the middle of nowhere. We were at a villa in the middle of nowhere, a really nice week away, but it was very hot. Hotter than Crete. It was around 35 to 40 degrees, very hilly, off-road. It put me through my paces, and I did 20 miles that week. Keep in mind, this was off the back of my longest week to date, so it was intentional that I was going to do less, but even that 20 miles, it felt so tough. So it definitely didn't help the week after when I had to try and get back into a routine and when I had to increase the volume again. So one update I'm going to give you guys is, you will have seen these trainers before. These are my Arahi 6 Hokas. Now, these are my daily drivers. Absolutely love them. They've gone through 500 miles of wear since April. And the lesson I want to teach you guys, and something that I've had to learn myself this week, is when you are marathon training, keep in mind how often you typically train your trainers before. Expect to change them in half the time. So I'm typically trained for a half marathon. So I usually change my trainers around 6 to 8, 9 months. Whereas this has been 4 months of solid use. And I feel as if the slight niggles that I've picked up this past week are partly due to the amount of work that I've been doing, but also I've been doing them, or the hard work that is, in trainers that are probably a little bit worse for wear now. So I have given myself a bit of an upgrade this week, and I have got the exact same pair in white. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking to yourself, David, why have you got them in white? Why? And I know, but I didn't want to get the same color again because it feels like I'm buying this. Well, I am buying the same thing, but I wanted a little bit of excitement with the purchase, especially because these cost me 130 quid. I thought I want a bit of excitement. So I'm usually a black and white kind of guy in terms of clothes. So I thought this would just fit perfectly. But also as well, it's a really good shoe. So I have upgraded my shoes. This is going to be my daily driver for the remaining around 8 weeks worth of training. And my race day shoes, I won't show here, but they are the Alpha Flies, the Nike Alpha Flies. I rarely wear them, but they're my race day shoes. Now, this past week has been a tough one for me. I only did 7 miles today when I would typically probably add another 10 to that. I'd do around 15 miles. The reason being is I have a slightly inflamed Achilles. Now, the reason for this, I believe, is slight overtraining. When I came back from Portugal, I tried to fit in a lot within a reduced week load. So there was that. Then I've started some coaching again with the guys that Fix My Run, and this is completely my own mistake in that I probably should have held off from that for another week, because when I came back, I was doing certain drills, a lot of which were unilateral, meaning on one leg, and they were quite explosive movements. So I've had that coaching lesson sandwiched in between 2 long, fairly fast runs, and my Achilles has just said, no, that's just too much. So I'm going to pull back that coaching a little bit, and I'm going to go into that again next week, and I'll do a separate video on that. But my Achilles is inflamed. It's a little bit tender, not to walk on anymore, but it was very tender to walk on a few days ago. And so I've just had to reduce my running volume. I would normally do a lot more this week, but I can't. And so I suppose I'll finish this video by saying that you've just got to listen to your body, and you've got to be patient, because I could really make a mistake here and just ignore the symptoms that I'm experiencing and think, oh, I'll be fine. Or I can respect that I'm not fully fit right now and that my body needs time to heal. And so it's very difficult, even for a guy who I think I'm fairly considerate and very aware of my body. It's still very frustrating to not be able to go as far and to do as much as you normally would. So even having not run for 3 days prior to this, it's been really frustrating. So something that I'm going to have to deal with and battle with. I have to think of the long-term gain as opposed to the short-term reward. And so, yeah, that's the update at the moment. In terms of going forward, I've got 2 more competitive runs that I plan on doing. I do plan on doing a competitive 20-mile run at race pace in around September. And I do plan on doing the Manchester Half mid-October. That'll be my last competitive run before New York. So I've just got to keep going, guys. Yeah. That's it. That's all you can do. You've just got to remember why you started, and you've got to understand and appreciate that those tougher days like today or like this week, these are the times that you remember when you cross that finish line, whether it's a 5K, 10K, half marathon, marathon. For me personally, whenever I achieve a goal that I set out to achieve, I naturally reflect on those times where it was really difficult. Because I think back to those times and think, if I didn't make that decision to push on, and if I didn't make that decision to be patient and to really dig deep, I wouldn't be where I am today. So embrace those tough times, know that it leads to some very rewarding times in the future. And yeah, it's all part of the journey. So that's everything for now. I'm going to give you guys an update again in the next one. I'm going to show you guys how I go about my running coaching. And so yeah, until then, we keep smiling, we keep thinking forward. This is what it takes.